a simple image of two-bedroom layouts has gone viral, and somehow the internet is arguing about which one is actually better. One layout prioritizes the bed, the other prioritizes the desk and the workspace. There are lots of comments, thousands of them, millions of views, very strong opinions. So today we're going to do something a little different. Instead of guessing, we're bringing into this debate into the real world from the perspective of a property developer. So we have our head of planning, Perry, and our professional interior designers, Jean and Erin, who deals every day with space layouts and real people every single day. And so we'll break down what actually works, what doesn't, and what most people never think about when arranging a small bedroom. So let's get into it. Okay, so there are two-bedroom layouts and millions of views and thousands of comments that have been generated by two-bedroom layout photos. And so we would like to discuss with our Cozy House team about we're going to break down the viral bedroom layout debate with our head of planning and also our interior designers. And so for us, we would like to get a preview of how it is with what's the perspective coming from planning and also what's the perspective coming from interior designer. And so today, instead of debating in the comment section for this or just creating a blog post about it, we're going to bring into the conversation people who are designing and planning homes for a living. So I'm joined by Perry, who is our head of planning and acquisitions. And also with me is Jean, who is interior designer, and Erin, who's our assistant interior designer. So we're a London-based property developer, and we are doing everything that revolves around creating homes, building better returns, and better homes. So today we're either picking a winner or we're just really sharing perspectives here. So before we jump in, I would be sharing obviously what this picture is. So I'll be sharing my screen so that we can have this picture. So these are the two layouts. I'll give you guys a time to really look into this. So we have layout one and layout two. And I would really, really want for you to share your opinions about this. So let's start simple. Okay. Let's start simple. When you first saw this viral image, what is your immediate reaction? Very coming from planning perspective, from spatial standards perspective, or what stood out? Which of the two do you think is better, or do you have any opinions about any of the two layouts?
Yeah, so obviously this isn't my first time seeing that photo. I would like to share it from the perspective of planning, but I'm also an architect by profession, so there might be some views on that as well, coming from that position. So obviously, when I look at the two schemes, I think the one that stands out more to me would be the one that has a bed facing the study area. Probably because, I mean, personally, I have my study area in my room, but I do recognize that sometimes this might have some issues later on when it comes to separating work and personal aspect of your life. And so it is important. Now I'm coming from the view of work-life balance and how work from home setup could affect your life in certain degree. And so we could also look into that aspect too when it comes to the bedroom layout, where your bed should be with respect to the study area. But I mean, just personally, when I first look at that without any biases or any like personal view on in terms of design, I feel like the one where the bed facing the study area stands out to me more or stood out to me when I first saw it. But I could share some perspective when it comes to planning too. I mean, we do a lot of facial, right? And so I think it's really important that for some people, they see HMO as a temporary accommodation. And so they don't normally stay that long in that area. And so I think it's important that they consider HMO as their resting place. And so if based on that perspective, if I would look at the scheme, I think it's important that the other scheme would be more preferable because your study area is kind of not across your line of view. And so you can mentally separate the two. But from planning, going back to planning, honestly, it doesn't matter how you lay out the furniture. It's more about making sure that you meet the minimum space requirement. So that's that. But I'll give opportunity to our interior designer. Probably they have more thoughts on this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'll share the screen again so that Erin and Jean can take a look at this more. Jean, obviously, as an interior designer, it would be very interesting to know your take
Oh,
on which layout you would prefer more. I mean, does it really have much that difference from an interior designer perspective?
I don't think there's any for layout one and layout two. There's no absolute right or wrong about these two layouts. I think it really depends on the user or the tenant's um, needs. But for me, I would think layout one makes more sense because for one practical reason, you have a spare side table, which is I think it would be more convenient for average people, where you can leave your phone, a cup of tea, you know. But in layout two, you would have a big problem if you have something that you want to put next to bed before you sleep. And also with the layout two, personally, I don't like it because I don't like my head face right next to the window because you can never guarantee. I mean, especially if I'm this kind of person who is so conscious about lighting, okay, and I've known a dozen of a lot of people who is who's very light conscious, if you know what I mean, and so they don't like to sleep right next to the window unless it's well like covered by the curtain. But really, for HMO projects, we sometimes we have to use rolling blinds, and which doesn't give 100% pocket light. So that's what I would consider. And and for study area, I think both gives a very good like um private kind of a separate space for the study.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, for both layouts, you get L-shaped study layout, which is okay, which is good. But for me, my main consideration would be, with or without the bedside table, because for me that's quite important, and that's I think that's practicality. In terms of this uh, circulation, we're talking about such a small room. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think again, okay. The only downside about layout one is that you when you open the door, you see the bed straight away. Some people don't like it because it feels a lack of privacy. Okay, that's the
Mm-hmm.
only. I think that's the only disadvantage I can think of about layout one. Otherwise, personally, I would prefer layout one over layout two.
Okay. So in terms of, let's say, you were discussing earlier about HMO, um, as an interior designer and with all of the projects that we have done actually both layouts. Based from my experience of, looking into all of the HMO projects that we have done both layouts. We would have rooms that would have layout two, we would have rooms that would have layout one. And I guess it matters sometimes how people are renting. Do you think um the rentability of a room for an HMO it matters if the design is layout one or layout two?
Um,
It,
Very well, let's start first.
Go
Because
ahead, Perry.
as you know, when it comes to planning, or should I say, if we try to look for opportunity to develop, we don't normally
Mhm.
look into this already, especially from the acquisition side of the development. So normally we try to look at an existing building and then we try to extend it. And then we try to fit in as many rooms as we can from the investment point of view. And because of that, it kind of sacrifice or affects the efficiency or effectivity of the layout, because like there would be like rooms where it would have like odd shapes, or sometimes windows like what Jean mentioned cannot be considered because, as mentioned earlier, we try to effectively fit in those rooms as much as we can
Mhm.
without sacrificing requirements when it comes to planning. And so from a layout point of view, this is sometimes a challenge for us, especially during planning stage, because our main goal is to make sure that we can fit in many rooms. But once the interior design team comes in, they would share their view. Like they would say that, Perry or high planning team, I don't think this would be the best form or layout for your bedrooms because your bed would not fit well in that room. It's kind of
Okay.
difficult for us to make sure that all of the rooms would be at its best layout. But yeah, but nonetheless, we do that. We do our best, especially with the help of the interior design team. So yeah, it's I'm kind of just highlighting some of the challenges with that aspect. It would be a lot easier if it would be like a new build where you'll be able to,
Mhm.
make decisions in terms of the layout as a whole instead of trying to refurbish or improve an existing building with limitations in terms of the plot. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. In terms of, let's say, planning, do planners imagine furniture placements when you guys are doing that? Or as you said, it's just a guide for the interior designers later on.
Interesting question. I think it's really important that even from planning stage, or even for our designers who are in the planning stage, they should be able to consider that already. Although we're not
Mhm.
as effective or good as our interior designer, but like what you said, it's really important to already factor that in and think about where the furniture should be placed. Because if we don't consider that at the earliest stage of planning, I think we're not being efficient, and there will be a lot of changes later on. So we try our
Mhm.
best to come up with the best room layout, considering the bed placement, or where can we potentially put in the wardrobe or the study area. Even for the kitchen area as well, we try to look into where the kitchen cabinets or fixtures can
Mhm.
be placed, or where the dining table would be in. But I think that's the best we can do. But eventually, our interior design team would come in with more appropriate, more suitable layout for that scheme, with minimal changes at least. So we try to, be efficient with that.
Okay. Erin, I would like to ask you this question because in Cozy House, how we leverage on costs, right? Is that we actually outsource or we order our second fix materials and our furniture from China. And so based on this layout, does it have any effect on how we when you guys are doing HMO projects and you're looking at the furniture that we're going to buy from China, does the layout matter? Would it have any effect on costs when we order from China's on any of the specific layouts? Would there be any difference or not at all?
For the
Jean or
layout,
Erin? Yeah.
yeah, for the layout, for example, if for the layout too, we might cancel that bedside table because I think it's not necessary for it to be there. So it
Mhm.
will save some cost for us. So this layout Yeah.
How about for the would it be possible to yeah, because also the floor lamp is removed from layout 1 to layout 2. So some of the items can be removed. Jean, your take on this.
Okay. I'd like to point out um, there's one there's something that would affect the cost in layout 2 as how the bed is positioned. You see, it's very
Mm-hmm.
dangerous for reality to have a bed right fit into that corner because um, a lot of times we don't have the dimensions like 100% precise, accurate dimensions. So, say if we have that dimension on the drawings, say 1500 for the width of the bed frame. Okay, that's like it looks very tight. And you have to chance your. What I'm saying is unless the the dimensions on drawings is 100% accurate with the job site dimensions, otherwise you would have a very big risk having ordered that dimension of bed frame and not be able to fit in because you haven't
Mm,
allowed any space, any flexibility in that space if the on-site dimension go wrong. So,
mm-hmm.
but with layout 1, see, I mean, obviously you don't have the problem with width because even if you have 10 centimeters, by mistakes, more or less, then you would have a problem with
Mm-hmm.
furniture. But you would have a big problem with the layout too. And we actually we sometimes this happens. It did happen, and so it just means we could not use the furniture. It would be sitting in our storage, and that would be waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could, of course, we could use it for next project, but then if we this the space was taken by in the storage, and it's just it will not be a good circle. So um, it'll be not in a good situation for us to make this happen all the time, and then we'll and building up all the unnecessary storage, taking up all
Mm-hmm.
the unnecessary space in storage. And so this will be in a bad circle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, for that reason, I think layout 2 is not ideal, and that would
Yeah.
affect the cost of our furniture accuracy, the procurement accuracy, if you know what I mean.
I
Yes.
have a I
Yeah.
have a question on layout 1. So the study table there is snug in between the two walls, right? Is it correct to
Mm-hmm.
assume, Jean, that it's easier to adjust or make adjustment on the study table, assuming that this table was procured from China, but later on, once it was delivered on site, it didn't fit in exactly because of the circumstances you mentioned earlier. You think in this situation it would be easier to make adjustment on site compared to a bed frame?
We well, you see, we try not to adjust any furniture on site
Mm,
involving cutting, like real physical adjustment because that would cost a lot of our labor, time, and labor cost is very expensive in the UK. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's very important for us to get the furniture dimensions correct when we place an order, and that would mean the so when we come to design the layout, and if we can't guarantee that will be 100% accurate when it built up, then we would much prefer layout 1 because that would give us flexibility even if the furniture go wrong in dimensions.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the point of Gene is basically if we do layout 2, especially with the bed being there, there's a lot of risk in terms of specification, and you might even have to do customization because you have to, like what Perry said, you have to make sure that it's snug or it fits really well. And I guess to the point of Perry and Jean, while obviously it would be better if we do not make any alterations to the furniture, such as, let's say, the study table, but we can have a little bit more flexibility as to what we can do with that area compared to if a bed is in there. Because with the bed, if you cut it, like it would be weird and it would be um, hard for us to find maybe even a mattress for it, right? So, and even so, if you customize, let's say, the bed frame, you will also have to customize or get like the right size of the mattress. And so there are more things that you have to think about as compared to if in the layout one, you have more space in there, you have more, again, flexibility, then that part of the window, you don't even really have to get an L-shaped table, right? It can be just like your very straightforward, just one um like the very straight table. It doesn't have to be an L shape. But um do do you think this layout one and layout two would have any reflection as to maybe the lifestyle of somebody who would be renting out rooms? Because again, like I said earlier, we would have our HMO properties that would have both types of layouts. And so one of the common, I guess, concern and issues of those who are renting or even those who are buying flats and properties is storage, right? So between the two, which do you think gives more allowances for storage for us? So is it layout one or is it layout two?
Probably. Looking at the two images, I feel like
Does
layout
it
two is
matter?
more. I'm sorry.
So layout two, you think would have more allowance for
No.
storage?
So I'm looking at layout two. It looks more cluttered compared to layout one. But anyway, going back to your question, which one would probably provide more storage? I feel like they have the same storage space based on furnitures, but if we can use the space under the bed frame or bed, I think layout one would have more opportunity to provide storage because you can probably convert that frame into a drawer, like what normally an interior designer do. Like they try to maximize the space and find ways to be creative when it comes to storages. I feel like layout one can be that by having the under the bed as a storage. And yeah, I'm just coming from that. I don't know what do you think, Gene or Erin?
Yeah, I think I agree with Perry on, on layout one, which gives more potential on the bed storage. With layout two, I mean, if you have drawers underneath, you can hardly use any. And most of furniture with drawers underneath, they are pulling out from the side. You can't find any that you get pulled out from the bottom. And so so for that reason, layout one would be a better option. However, if 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 a tenant is a say um, if a tenant works from home, like at least 4 days a week, okay, layout two would be a better option because you are able to build overhand cabinets on top of the desks. But you can't do that with layout
Mm.
one because there's a window. So, I mean, in terms of wardrobe storage, I think two options are the same, right? But if you need more storage for other things, specifically for work, like files, etc., then
Yeah, like the one
then
beside you.
yeah, exactly,
Like the
yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so then layout two would work better because you obviously the desk is putting against the wall and you have that space to add more cabinets.
Actually, on
Okay.
overhang cabinets, do you think that would be a great idea to add those to our HMOs? Because normally our storages would rely on wardrobes or like standing cabinets or study table. Do you think introducing overhang cabinets as an additional storage would be a good addition to our HMOs?
It will, um, well, I think probably not if we're not focused specifically on work from home people, tenants,
Mm,
because
Mhm.
there's because it's quite a limited type of things you can store on the overhand cabinets, mostly only work items like files,
Yeah,
etc. But
very light items. You can't
it's
like
quite
really
yeah
put
yeah
like
yeah
heavy,
exactly.
yeah.
It's quite limited.
mhm,
So and also it will make sometimes it make the space feel
okay.
more crowded.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
but I think it would be better to explore more opportunity for wardrobe space, because with wardrobe you can store anything, not just
Mhm,
clothes, your luggage, just even cardboard boxes. So yeah, I wouldn't invest in overhand cabinet really. I mean, they're good, but they are quite limited for
mhm,
storage type.
mhm.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Okay. Because I have seen this, like with my brother's flat. One of their bedrooms, the bed frame, it opens up, so you can, so it opens from like the end the end of the bed. So
Mm,
you kind of lift it up. So you kind of remove the mattress, or you kind of roll the mattress, and then you lift it up, and then so you can put storage underneath. So it's not a drawer. Um, would we have any idea as to the cost of that? Like, does it make sense to have those in HMOs from your point
Uh,
of view, or the drawer underneath is just the most practical?
well, we have considered the what you call it, the flip up storage bed, but
Mm-hmm.
it's it to be honest, it's not as straightforward as the drawers, because
Okay.
most of this kind of bed you will find you need a lot of um power to lift that thing up. I don't know if you tried before, but it's not that easy actually. It's not that easy to flip this up with especially with all these beddings and duvet weight putting on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that easy to use. Um, Otherwise, but yeah, I mean, it'll be a good storage additional option. But if you want to compare that to drawers, I would much prefer drawers, because it's just more straightforward.
Okay. So I guess obviously we were talking about flats and HMO. So I guess it is something that's like more long term and you live there. So it means like the storage is kind of permanent, right? And you would like to, like what my brother does. So he would put all these old toys or maybe clothes that are still very
yeah.
big for my niece, and then they would put it there because again, you kind of need a little bit of muscle power to open that up.
Mm,
But if you are a tenant, if you are living in an HMO and you would need to have access on that all of the time, drawer makes sense compared to that flip thing. Okay. Um, what happens when a design matters? Like for this layout one and layout two, um, is it just preference, or is it more like with layout one and layout two, which is more cost effective? We talked about preferences earlier, right? So Gene said he doesn't really prefer if the 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 bed would be at the back of your head would be the window. And Perry said that he would like more like legroom and space to move in, so layout one is also his preference. But in terms of cost, we talked about, one of the things which would be storage. The other one, customization and flexibility. But aside from those things, are there any other reason that one or the other bedroom would have a really great effect in terms of cost? So we talked about profitability earlier. We said, most likely it's layout one. But in terms of being more cost effective, um, is that we talked about being cost effective in the sense about, Erin mentioned in layout two we can remove some items, but he said that layout one would make more sense because we don't have to do a lot of customization, or we have more flexibility in terms of the furniture. So aside from those things, do we consider anything else in this designs, both of these designs for cost effectivity?
For me, I think both layouts pretty much the same cost. Because one thing when we look at the costs, it's really about the how many pieces of furniture you have in one room. And these two layouts, they have exactly same furniture. So from that aspect, I think the cost would not make any difference.
Okay.
If you compare, if you're comparing these two layouts.
Okay.
But like I said
Okay.
earlier, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about circulation. One of the things that Perry, initially when I showed him this photo, he talked about circulation. Perry, can you share more about what you mean about circulation in the layouts?
Yeah, because normally from architecture or even interior design, when you talked about circulation, there should be room or space on the side of the bed. That's more preferred in terms of circulation, how it relates to the window. So if you look at layout one, there is enough clearance on its left-hand side. And at the same time, for the wardrobe, there's also circulation at the feet of the bed. And so basically, the circulation here works pretty well, especially in relation to the bed itself. But if you look at layout two, as you can see, when I mentioned about clearance on the side of the bed, layout two doesn't have it. Think about replacing the bed sheets. It would be quite difficult, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you would be sleeping on the wall side, if you would be like couple and you're on the left-hand side, it would be difficult for you to get out unless you can go to the feet, but on the side you can't do that. So there is that kind of challenge. But I think the advantage of layout two, like what Jean mentioned earlier, I think layout one is more designed for individuals where they don't prioritize the study room. Unlike for layout two, it's more suitable for study room because if you look at layout two, we can go around if you are working from home because as you can see, there's enough space on the study area, and then of course you can use the space in front of the wardrobe, so you can go around there if you want to work out. I think you can also use that space. So yeah, it's more about preference, but circulation-wise, I think the out one would be more preferred or would have more better circulation overall. Yeah.
Okay. Jean or Erin, any take on this about circulation from the interior design's point of view?
Well, I think circulation is better in layout one, simply because, like again, I think I would like to emphasize on practicality. The way that getting on and off the bed is every day you need to
Mm-hmm.
do. It's the most basic thing, and if you're getting on or off the bed is becoming difficult, then it's not a good circulation. So
Okay.
yeah.
Erin, your take in terms of circulation?
For me, I think to study beside the window, we can have more sunshine. I think it's good for the eyes. So I think it's a good way for the circulation. And also we can sleep on the bed and charge your phone on the bedside table. I think it's also more like our life habit. Instead of the layout two, the bedside table is beside your feet. I think it have less work than the layout one. So that's
Okay.
my opinion.
Okay. Do you think there's a lifestyle difference of people who would live in layout one versus layout two? Do you think like layout one would be more of like a student? Because as Erin said, there's a proper like a workspace area compared to layout two. Do you think there would be a lifestyle difference between the two people who would prefer to live in layout one versus layout two? So let's say we're trying to cater to students. Would we do more of the layout one or the layout two, or it doesn't really matter?
I think students would probably prefer layout one, but like what I mentioned earlier when I answered the first question, the first one that stood out, being aside, practicality, circulation, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Layout two stood out because, I mean, it looks like everything is in one place. And I'm single, so I don't necessarily have to think about getting on and off the bed. I mean, it's easier for me because I would be by myself. But
Okay.
and also there's enough room at the study area. I would like that. I would like to go around it. Also, sometimes I do workout, so I would prefer that that spacious area to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, ultimately, I think in terms of how efficient it is, layout one, that I honestly, based on our conversation, layout one definitely win this. But I mean, in terms of like what you mentioned, like the different individuals, probably layout two still have some certain individuals that would be attracted to the scheme, just like me.
Okay. Oh, I mean, mentioning that actually brought to mind because in HMOs, right? They are sometimes very specific about the number of occupants living
Mm,
in that bedroom.
mm,
So, would you consider layout to be something that we could maybe reuse if it's one person, one bedroom type of area?
mm,
Because again, right, like in layout two, it's kind of hard to have two people maybe in
mm.
that bedroom because of the layout. So would do you think that would matter if if we do that?
Uh, well, I think layout two would attract certain individuals, just like I said, like me. But normally, when we do HMO scheme, we want to make sure that we're able to cater diverse individuals. So I think layout two is more
Okay.
specific and a niche that. So I think we have to be able to, you know, attract wider sector or individuals.
Okay. All right. I noticed in layout two that there's a socket like right beside the bed. Um, is that a fire hazard? Is that something that you could really do? Would that pass the UK standards? I don't know who can say about
Uh,
this.
sorry, are we talking about layout two?
Layout two, yeah. At the bed,
Oh,
at the beside the bed at the wall, you would see like
oh,
a socket
okay. Yeah,
right
that's
there.
fine. It doesn't violate fire regulations having it next to the
Okay.
bed. So
Okay.
that's cool.
It's not a problem. All right. Um, maybe for somebody, let's say we have a client who would come to us and would try to understand configurations of bedrooms and doing layouts like this. What would be a practical advice that you would give them in terms of figuring out which layout works for them? What would be, the guide questions or advices that you could give them? Maybe one for each of you to give an advice, practical advice to a client.
I think normally when it comes to design, you would always ask them their background. So you try to understand their preferences. Are they a single individual, like what we talked earlier?
Mhm.
What do they prefer? Like their lifestyle? Because like what I said earlier, I mean, each layout could attract different individuals based on their lifestyle. And so if they prefer, like what Erin mentioned, that having going for layout one would be more suitable for individuals who would like to have natural lighting during their, study or focus hour, then layout one stands out more. If they want to
Mhm.
have enough space to go around and do, practice or dancing, or maybe they are a violin player, maybe layout two could be useful. I mean, I think you have to ask them first, what's their lifestyle, and you can probably recommend, or the simplest way to do it, just show the scheme and which resonates to you more. Maybe do it that way. But yeah, I don't know what
Okay.
the other two things.
Okay. Jean, Erin?
Yeah, I think my 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 advice would be the same as Perry's. It's every individual is different, so you can't have one layout fit for all. And for me, I would I would try to understand about the tenants or about the person who is living in this room, um, and then if they are kind of person who don't stay indoor all the time, then I would recommend layer one, because and for people who work from home most of the time, or for people who like to stay indoor, play online games, and stay in a room for like 10 hours, then I would recommend layout two, because there's more room in the study area that you can do lots of things like yoga, like maybe just do a little YouTuber thing in your own room. Yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, I think it's about what the individual preferences is. Um, yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay. Erin?
I think they just said everything I want to say.
Good answer. Good
Uh,
answer.
yeah, I think for me, if you like to work in the day, and I think layout one may be the best choice because it can have more sunshine. Um, and if you want to do more exercise, yoga or some play guitar, you can choose the layout two because it have more space in the center of the room. So that's my opinion.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for giving your opinions and perspectives on this viral topic. And I would like to share to everybody that as developers, we are, shaping the world that these tenants or the clients we have in how they live. And I think it's very important. The one key factor that we have to take away from this is really to understand their preferences and also, like what you said, lifestyle, so that we can retrofit, right? And it would be more appealing to the end users on the layouts that we're going to create, because it doesn't really make sense to um, just go with our own references and preferences because this is how we like it, but it's not going to appeal to the wider market. So thank you for the three of you, Jean, Perry, and Erin, for your time for doing this podcast. And hopefully the other team members will also be a part of the podcast in the future, and we would like more topics to be included. So if you are a viewer and you would like for us to maybe discuss some of the topics, you can drop below in the comments topics that you would like for us to do. Thank you.